yesterday was good. It was my mama's birthday, so July the 4th will always be special to me. Happy birthday, moms. All right. So today we have a very, 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 very special guest. Brother Merrick Moses talks about growing up in New York City and the confluence of factors that caused him to go to college at Morgan State University in Baltimore, where he has now established his life and career. Today we're going to talk about his journey. He's been very active, I know personally, in Annapolis, and most recently, even the White House. According to his LinkedIn page, they didn't got me all. LinkedIn wants some verification and all of that. We're going to have to get back there. But it says something about an old Catholic priest. What is an old Catholic priest? You're an old Catholic priest? I thought you was a youngin'.
I wish I was a youngin'. Oh, hey everybody, peace. What's going on? I am an old Catholic priest. So the old Catholic church is a separated from the Roman See during the Vatican I Council over the doctrine of papal infallibility. So we do not see the Pope as the vicar of Christ. We look at the Pope as first among equals. He's kind of like in our mind, like the CEO of the board, but he is not Lord overall. So it was during the Vatican I Council that the Roman See decided to declare the Pope infallible over matters of dogma and doctrine. And there are some Marian dogmas that we don't abide by, like we believe in the dormition of Mary. Basically, when Mary died and was taken up to heaven, we don't necessarily believe in her assumption in that she bodily and soul was sent to heaven. So those are kind of just some of the in the weeds stuff that we believe.
How did you get to that understanding? I've never heard anyone explain that to me before. I mean, I have my own beliefs. I know as a Baptist, and it's amazing what we think we know versus what we know. But as a Baptist, I'll be wondering where the black Pope at. Why ain't
there have been black popes?
Huh?
There have been black popes in
Not in my lifetime.
No, we might not never see a black pope in this lifetime. In fact,
whoa. Me and you from the streets. I know you from the streets, from the community.
Yeah.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Jesus was a black man. Now, how the heck can it be a black pope? Who? What's up with that?
Well, right now we don't have the balance of power in the Roman See to even consider that. Now, I will say that there have been whisperings when Francis either dies or retires, that they may consider one of the prelates from Africa to take to be the Pope. Although I really do doubt it. The Pope, the most of the Roman See is actually European. So that's a hurdle that they need to get over. But truthfully, when we look at the Roman Catholic masses, actually, the way it's looking like right now, most Roman Catholics at some point will either be African or Asian. The church is literally growing in the global South, and in the West, the church is not growing. So that's kind of what's happening on that front.
You and I have had some candid conversations, and racism is racism.
It is. I mean, honestly, this is the thing that many of us don't realize, that racism is a global system, right? It's not located in pockets, and here we go. And so when we say that there's racism in the global system, we're talking about from the rooter to the tutor. I mean, there's a reason why the Europeans decided to paint Jesus as a European. which he was not. He was clearly a brown Jew from Palestine of the first century. So, they have their own propaganda campaign to subjugate the world in that image of white Jesus, which we know is a lie. We know that that is a straight up lie.
Interestingly, a friend video conferenced me yesterday from New Orleans,
Mm,
and I got a chance to see the Whitney plantation.
mm,
There was this thing back in 1811 called the German Rebellion, where the blacks in New Orleans had an uprising. And long story short, they were cutting off heads, putting them on pikes. And the Whitney plantation is outside of New Orleans, but they put a pike every so many yards or what have you, all the way to New Orleans. When I think of the history of racial violence, when I think of the fact that people are just getting off of this plantation in 1975 because of debts. Can you imagine somebody in 1975 paying for their ancestors' debt? I don't owe you nothing. Are
at
you
all.
serious?
Y'all even, the way I look at it is, y'all even lucky that I'm here trapped in the mindset of white Jesus, because if I wasn't, it'd been a whole different story around there, boy. I'm telling you
Well,
that
see,
right now.
it was a different story. The story wasn't like black people just accepted slavery. See,
Of
I
course not.
refuse and dismiss that crap. But we carry this show is the mental health show, new life recovery show. If I think better, I do better. But this carries over to today. The slave Bible, the black laws, the black codes, the police. The police were established in America, if anything, for us. And so I
You're
still
absolutely right.
I wrestle with it because you never know when you're meeting a nice white person or a racist or a former racist. You never know when you meet a black person if you're meeting a slave.
I mean, there's a lot of compromised folks out here. And then when we look at the state of hip hop and how that intersects with what you just said, there's a number of D-list rappers that are supporting the other person. Y'all know who the other person is, Mr. Orange, for the sake of this conversation.
Orange man.
And they are, yeah, the Orange Man. And so, I personally believe that these people are getting paid to betray their people. But we also got to understand too, a lot of our folks may not really understand what's at stake. In addition to the fact they don't understand the history of the Orange guy, like a New Yorker like myself does, and seeing that person who was literally a punchline in a couple of rap songs in the 90s ascend to a position which there are people who worship him as God is mind-boggling to me. It's insane, actually. I mean, if this was a TV show, this would be the best TV show ever. I'm telling you, because it's insane. It's insane.
I talked to a dear friend of mine last night, following up down in New Orleans. This cat like my little brother. You may have even seen me with him years ago. From New Orleans,
Hmm.
lived there for a minute. He's back there. And I'm not going to put him out there. I'm not going to put his name out there. But last night he said something so disturbing to me. And hey, he's still my brother. And if a civil war broke out, I would not kill him. But he told me he's a Trumper. He say, man, some people hide their hand even though they threw the rock. I'm like, dude, did you read Project 2025? The Heritage Foundation put out this $22 million document, 920 pages. And if you read between the lines, well, let me stop. Did you get a chance to peep it?
I did, and I did some research on it. So I've been looking at this since maybe the beginning of the years when I started to hear whispers, and then I combed through some. podcast. I actually read part of the document. I got some commentary on it, and it's pretty scary stuff. So this is the thing that how we get taken advantage of. There's so many of us that are bogged down in just life. We don't necessarily always have the time or the mental focus to focus on these things, right? So while I hear a brother like your friend say that, I personally believe that this person really does not know the extent to the cruelty, to the level of policy cruelty that will happen if these people take the reins of power. First of all, if we look at how they want to get rid of the federal workforce and basically put their people in control. They said this in black and white. Y'all could go look at it yourself, Project 2025. They basically are like, we're going to fire everybody and we're going to put our people in. So you know what that means in Maryland? Donnie, you already know this. A good portion of the federal workforce lives where? In Prince George's County, in Montgomery County. A lot of those jobs are occupied by who? Our brothers and sisters, our siblings. You see what I'm saying? And so if these jokers come in and do their plan, it's going to be a whole lot of black people out of work. A whole lot of black people out of work. And a lot of these people are subject matter experts. So if you've ever seen a movie called Idiocracy, where basically like it's a time in government where like there's stupid people that's just running the government. I mean, these people are like really ignorant. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at people that are being brought in, right? And they literally know absolutely probably nothing about their positions. They're just there to hold space and do whatever the orange man says, right? And they're looking at ditching the Department of Education, all the environmental laws within environmental protection organization agency that's going out the window. They would like to put in a Christian nationalist state in which the separation of church and state is blurred, and so they want to push their version of Christianity. As you and I both know, there are many different versions of Christianity, and they want to produce their own, which we know comes from where? The slave Bible. So we already know that. And lastly, but not in the least, they are looking at grabbing the reins of the FBI and the Department of Justice, in which they will weaponize to arrest people that they do not agree with and they don't like. So that is something that's just a little bit in a nutshell. But please, y'all, please go look at this document. It is insane. This is not a joke. This is not a game at all. At all.
So you and I have had many conversations over the years. You're one of my favorite people. You know why?
Why?
Because you never switched up. You've been one way always. Always with me. And so
That's true.
you should know that I'm a Taraji Henson fan. Not from all of her films, but I think she's a nice person. And she always has, to me, and I haven't watched like Power and all of that and Hustle and Flow, you know. But I've seen her in some films, in some shows, some television shows, and I like her character. I like the character, the integrity she brings to the screen. I like that she stood up and said that she wasn't getting paid because, you know, from the audience perspective, we see, you know, people see me on television, oh, he rich. I saw a guy the other day, he was like, yeah, ain't you that guy on TV? Yeah, but business, and just because you see somebody on television, and I am rich, I am filthy rich. I am so blessed. Yes, I am rich, but I'm talking about millions and billions, and as the world sees, as the world looks at what rich is, I've learned that my richness, yeah, I like to go to the bank. Of course I like to go to the bank, but that word says, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Because I know you can have all the money in the world, but if I'm a dope fiend, if I'm an alcoholic, if I'm gambling, if I'm tricking, I'm poor in spirit. So I first want my spirit to be rich. But long story short, when I learned that Taraji at the BET Awards talked about Project 2025, I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. I'm all for entertainment. Malcolm said, however, that entertainers are not our
No, he was correct. And right now, to your point, I'm glad she did that. Because there's a lot of foolishness that happens at those award shows. And one of the things that I notice is this, that when we had conscious hip hop on the airwaves, on heavy rotation, a lot of us got knowledge of self. We learned who we was, not just as human beings, but as African people. And that scared a lot of the record execs and the masses. So this is how we get the whole gangster rap phase in heavy rotation towards the end of the 90s. And I think that when we look at today's music, a lot of it is designed to dumb our children down. I mean, that's just my opinion. But I've been listening to hip hop since 1980, since I was 6 years old. So I think I know what I'm talking about. That being said, when I see a sister like Taraji, it makes me happy because I'm like, somebody's paying attention. We gotta let our people know.
When you hear our young people in Baltimore call each other dummy, what comes to your mind?
It hurts my heart because we know that words create conditions. Your words spoken out of your mouth can become not only your condition, somebody else's condition, and can take form or shape before you even know it. And so I'm in my head, I'm like, yo, why are we denigrating ourselves with that language? I don't hear Asians calling themselves dummy. I don't hear Europeans calling themselves dummy. Right? And I've been taught that the reason why we say disparaging things to each other in part comes from slavery, in that if you denigrated your child in front of the master, it was your way of saying don't sell my child because he got this problem, she got that problem, she got that problem, she got that problem. You don't want to sell her. So that's the way to keep somebody in the family, but it's become incredibly maladaptive, and it encourages a mindset of failure. And we need to change that paradigm. Each one teach one. That's where I come from. Each one teach one.
What do you see when you look around Baltimore? You've been in East Baltimore, you've been in West Baltimore, you had the experience of boogie down Bronx all the way to Manhattan, probably Brooklyn and Queens. I never really asked you about East New York, but where are we in Baltimore?
I see a potential for greatness, but I also see a lot of despair. There's a lot of people on these streets out here struggling, doing things they probably don't want to do, but are doing just to make ends meet. And what makes me sad is just how illicit drugs, have proliferated our community to the point where I've got providers outside of Baltimore City sending it, telling me that the reason why they don't have a lot of treatment centers in the city in their counties is because Baltimore City is seen as a resource rich place. So I'm like, that's interesting. But what I realized was this: what she was telling me is, we will ship our problems out to y'all because we're not going to deal with them here. And this is how we get situations in which you get folks that's not from Baltimore, sleeping in dumpsters in people's backyards and going out and doing whatever they doing and coming back and at home in Pikeville or Perryville.
Carroll County, Harford County.
They that's Trump country out there. So what y'all saying, right? And so my concern is, I see that and that consumption fueling the murders of Black children, and it makes my heart incredibly sad. However, because I know statistically crime is down, and I work in a space and place where I've seen individuals evolve from that life, I know change is possible. So metaphorically, I look at Baltimore City as a lotus. The lotus seeds and blooms at the same time in really nasty, murky water. However, it is one of the most beautiful flowers on the planet Earth, and is so rare because it seeds and blooms at the same time, which is a demonstration of the simultaneity of cause and effect. So what that tells me is this: that trouble don't last always, and that Baltimore is literally the rose that grew from the concrete. I'm so blessed to be here in Baltimore, although you know I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I'm so blessed to be here. I've been here 27 years, and to God be the glory. I mean, Baltimore literally saved my life. That's why I felt indebted to Baltimore and to the people of Baltimore because you have loved me like my own family, and I'm forever grateful for that.
I definitely love you, Merrick, because you've been one way with me always. One way always. So I understand you was over at the White House recently.
I went to cover the White House Pride event. It was an adventure, but I can tell you this: there were a lot of people there. There were definitely a lot of people. I'm going to say maybe a couple hundred as I saw people coming. Um, it seemed to be a very joyous event. The White House was decorated in the pride colors, which I thought was nice. And I will say this: it's been incredible to see the growth and the acceptance of communities of sexual and gender minorities from the White House. Because I remember a time like it was literally taboo to even mention the alphabet soup people. It was absolutely taboo. So to see, in 2024, we have actual celebrations at the White House around LGBTQ people is amazing. I heard that Dr. Biden was really great. She was very gracious and warm. I did see a couple of people I know that were from the administration that were leaving the event, and they seemed to be very happy. I will tell you though, it was a hot one that day. It was, and people also brought their kids to the event too, which I thought was great because I think it's very important, particularly for LGBTQ youth, to actually meet functioning, capable, intelligent LGBTQ adults. I think that's really important because what it says is trouble don't last always, and that you too can excel.
Well, I want you to know that I appreciate you representing Be More News and in any capacity that you'd like. But I needed that event covered, and I couldn't think of a better person to handle that because you've been all, like I say, 100 with me. Take me
I
back to the
appreciate that.
kids. Take me back to the kids. What do we need to enlighten children across the board? Because everybody else is setting the agenda. They taking Black history books out of schools. They doing this. They taking prayer out to schools. They do this, do that. And then we haven't even talked about Project 2025 and these people mentioning God, because I don't want anything to do with their God.
I
I
don't either.
don't want nothing to do with it. But take me to the kids and the White House and what we as a society, as a community, need to do to enlighten our children.
One of the things that I would suggest people do, and I'm saying this as a person who's worked with a lot of kids over the last 20 years. It might even be I don't know, maybe 27, 28 years now. Um, is that we have to respect their personhood, right? And that includes actually talking to them about things that matter to them and listening to them. And I think that we would find out a lot about our children if we just listen to them. Two, when we talk about issues around sexuality and gender, parents need to really learn themselves about those topics because your kids are going to ask you. And guess what? The days of I don't want to talk about gay people are over. And I'm going to tell you why. Because, particularly in a place like Baltimore City, I guarantee your kid knows at least one queer or trans person in Baltimore City. At least one. At least one. So I think that we should be open with our kids. And it's not necessarily about promoting a lifestyle, it's about creating a dialogue in which your child can trust you and come to you and you can answer your child's questions, particularly around issues that look like birth control, that look like STIs, for instance. There are a lot of queer guys that I've met in my travels that really kind of didn't really fear the possibility of becoming positive. Why? Oh, because we have a pill and we can take it and that's over. But see, what they don't understand is this, right? Is that the pill that you're taking, and the pill that your buddy taking may affect you in different ways. And so, what does HIV prevention look like? What does STI prevention look like for young people? Because that is important. If we think that some of our kids are not engaging in intimate activities, we're wrong. We got kids as young as preteens that's out here doing stuff that they should not be doing. And so it is important that we keep the lines of communication open. It's important that we educate ourselves about issues around sexuality and sexual health. And also to really, we have to be intentional in creating strong connections with our children. And when I say our children, you don't have to be somebody's parent. You could be auntie, you could be uncle, you could be that big cousin that they come to, right? Because we know that in Black communities, one child is everybody's child. You know what I'm saying? So if you play that role in that person's life, make sure that you have the listening ear and the knowledge to impart on that young person so that they can make better decisions for themselves. That's really important. Also, to helping kids up with logic too, helping kids develop logical frameworks, right? So that they don't get caught doing crazy stuff. That may land them in a situation that is not conducive to their benefit or their growth. So those are just some things that I think about too. It's just really being honest with our youth and listening to them too, because we would be surprised what comes out the mouths of babes. We really would. Especially young people, young ones. Sometimes I'm like, how you know that? And then I realize sometimes our ancestors embody in form to give us messages from children. So that's just my personal theology part, but you know what I'm saying.
No, I appreciate it, and please enlighten me, school me. One, so in terms of school curriculum, at what age should the conversations be about sex?
I'll say this. I'll say this. We have to start teaching kids early about good touch and bad touch. So that's not talking about sex in general, but you can tell your 4-year-old what a good touch is and what a bad touch is, right? And so that sets the framework for them developing boundaries, right? Sometimes we got to teach these kids boundaries, right? So from there, but when we're talking about sex ed, I think we really need to start talking about healthy and unhealthy relationships around the age of between 8 and 10 years old. Because at this point, kids are being socialized with one another. They're talking to one another. Also, too, we have to also listen to the influences that they're getting, particularly from music, from art, and from culture,
Social
right?
media.
Be the hero. Yeah, and social media too. I'm sure you saw this, Donnie. But the Surgeon General of the United States wants to put a warning label on social media for the kids. And guess what? There are people that think that that's censorship, but I think that there should be reasonable accommodations to do that, because some of the stuff that I'm seeing and hearing with kids and some of the stuff they're doing online, I'm like, what is going on? But I do think that at yes, go ahead.
Merrick, I'm seeing grown women with their entire hind parts out on social media. Their entire hind part. I'm 59. I've seen things unravel, but now it's just like, what the hell? Even walking down the street. I mean, it used to be coochie cutters. These ain't coochie cutters. This is just straight coochie. I mean, it's just out there, and it's like, it's somebody kid looking at you, your nasty self.
I mean,
where there are no boundaries.
there's no boundaries, and that's why we have a problem. First of all, I think people should realize when you walk out the house like that, you present a security risk to yourself.
Yes,
I'm
that's
not
why.
blaming anybody. I'm not blaming anybody. I feel like theoretically in the land of the free, quote unquote, the home of the brave, quote unquote, that you should be able to express yourself. But at some point, this society is not safe for people who are out here naked. It's just not. Uh, as a person who worked in a law enforcement type of situation, it's not safe, y'all. It's not safe. And particularly for young women, particularly for young black women. If you look up the stats on young black women, when we talk about missing children, young black women are near the top. This is a real situation. And I'm not blaming people for the stuff that they wear, but I'm saying please develop a situational awareness. This is a serious situation. Please don't come out naked because that is not safe. We got a lot of people that's not right in the head, and these people are violent, and
You
some
got
of them are
rapists,
sexual predators. Yes.
sexual predators, and the trafficking. And you've all but said it. Black women get trafficked too. Black girls get trafficked too. They pop up missing, and that's it. It's no more first 24, first 48 hours. Gone. But we on
And the
social
way that
media, and when I see grown
yep.
women on social media, it's like, boo-boo. What are you saying to the rest of the world? You saying, I don't care. And that's troubling. That's very troubling.
But see, you got to remember, Donnie, right? When we go back into the hip hop files, you get people like Amber Rose talking about she on a slut walk. 10 years later, she in the tank for the orange guy. You see what I'm saying? And the cultural messages that are not countered in our home. So if my child comes back to me and starts talking about she a slut walk this, I'm going to ask where you get that from. Why do you think this person is doing that? What wouldn't it be dangerous to walk outside like that? Like asking these children questions. So, and it helps them build a logical framework. And right now, we got a lot of people that's seeing and doing, but don't know why. They don't know why. And we really need to get a handle on that with our children in house. Be that person that the kids can come to and be like, let me tell you something, Mr. Merrick. Let me tell you something, Brother Moses. Be that person. Because our children need that type of encouragement because sometimes they can't get it from home. And that's just a real situation. Sometimes they just can't get it from home. So be that person, be that beacon of light in their life.
Educate us, sister. Hey, listen, Merrick, Brother Merrick, when
Mm-hmm.
I think about
Mm-hmm.
the city of Baltimore and the politicians, tell me about your work in Annapolis.
Oh man, that's a going back home. It's basically 20 years already. So I started out a little bit of background. So when I was a teenager, I helped one of my cousins create an organization called CLIMB, Commitment to the Longevity and Improvement of Male Blacks, and he had created a system, a rites of passage system for young black boys. And so after I came home from college, I rejoined the organization and I was doing truancy work with them. And then in 2001, I ended up moving back to Baltimore, and I did some teaching. And then in 2002, I became a member of something called the Portal, which at that time was Baltimore's only LGBTQ center for African Americans. So I started hosting support groups there. I have a bachelor's of science in psychology from Morgan State University and a minor in Spanish language as well. And so from there, I got hired at a group called Equality Maryland, which was Maryland's civil rights organization for LGBTQ people. And then that's how I ended up in Annapolis. And so from there, I learned how to run campaigns. I learned how to analyze data. I learned how to get a bill through through the legislature. I learned about the politics of the legislature. I learned about the politicians, and I will tell you, my walk has been very interesting. And so I did some marriage equality legislation. I also did some environmental legislation as well. When I was in Annapolis, it was actually one of the best times of my life, really. I learned so much about the government, and not just the government, but the racial politics in the legislature. And it's very interesting how racism shows up in the legislature, especially when it comes to Baltimore City. I personally, just my personal belief system, I feel that the counties around us, many people in those counties see Baltimore as their personal dumping ground and playground. So they come here, get their whatever on, leaving, I don't know, in their wake, and then they go back home to the county while we got to pick up the dregs. And it saddens me because we get blamed for a lot, and a lot of which has less to do with the people of Baltimore as opposed to the people who come to Baltimore and create issues and then leave. That's where I'm coming from. And it makes me sad because I'm like, it really doesn't have to be like that. But when when you're living in a society that's racist, what is it? Blame everything on black people. But it ain't us. It ain't just us.
So you're telling me, and we've talked about this many times, that in the LGBTQ community, there's racism.
That's like saying, is the Pope Catholic? Hell yeah. Oh my God. There's so much racism in this community. It's crazy. And the funny thing is, when I started doing LGBTQ advocacy work, because I was coming from a black context with the portal, I didn't realize how racist um, the community was until I started hearing crazy things. Like there was the head of the Human Rights Campaign, which is the largest LGBTQ human rights organization. HRC stands for Human Rights Campaign. And I remember asking him, and I was a young organizer at that time, brand spanking new. I'm ready to get into the work. So I asked him, well, what is your black outreach going to look like? This man said, this European, Euro American man says to me, well, I'm not going to do that. I have people to do that for me. And sipped his latte and was like, next. So in my head, I'm like, really? And then it just cascaded from there. I remember when the marriage equality thing was going on, and a lot of the white gays were like, this is the next phase of the civil rights movement. And then they were mad when black people got mad at them saying that. And I had to literally tell uh, these Euro American gays, some of these Euro American gays, that's not the frame. See, because what it looks like is, it looks like you are, I don't want to say hijacking, but appropriating something that you didn't really even have a part in, but you are you're a beneficiary of that movement. And I personally think that
And you're
that
fraud.
quote unquote civil,
You're
yeah,
fraud.
it's
You're
literally,
fraud because you're not
it's a
treating
fraud.
because you're not treating your fellow brothers and sisters the same way. It's no difference. A
And,
racist is a racist.
and that's what it is. And also too, I'll tell you a story about Black Pride. So Baltimore Black Pride came about from 4 to 6 people, one of whom was Carlton Smith, God rest his soul. He was a founder of Black Pride, along with Leroy Burgess, Dana Owens, Kevin Clemens, um, Dale, and Z. And so that happened because they were having church service. Unity Fellowship Church, which is a black LGBTQ denomination, was having church services on Sundays at the Pride Center. I mean, not at the Pride Center at the time; it was called the Gay and Lesbian Community Center, Baltimore, the GLCCB. And they told them they was going to have to leave because they was singing too loud. So my gay self can't even praise my God in the gay center. And that's how Black Pride was born. They literally got kicked out right? And so when we talk about racism in the gay community, it's still racism. And I know a lot of heterosexual, biological black people um, believe otherwise, but it's not Gouda cheese and wine over here. I mean, when we talk about the HIV crisis, that a lot of that affected black people and Puerto Rican people, particularly in the New York context. And then nobody will tell you about how a lot of these folks got the virus from the white folks that they was dealing with, right? And the and ended up being ostracized from their families. And that's how the marriage equality movement was born, because people were dying from these diseases, and then their family that didn't want anything to do with them ended up snatching all of their property. So marriage equality was actually a form of asset protection for the wealth hoarding gay class, also known as the gay mafia in some respects. But that is a real thing. And so one of the things that I've been doing for a good 10 years now is organizing within black and brown LGBTQ spaces, because we have our own culture and we need to uplift our own selves, because oftentimes we are faced with a matrix of racism when we interface with our Euro American counterparts sometimes. And it's a real issue, it's a real problem. It also stops people from getting the health care we need too. So those are some of the things that I've been working on for a good minute now.
Educate me, Brother Mark, about where we have come. You alluded to this, where we have come with the AIDS pandemic.
Well, I will say we're making extraordinary strides. So we do have pre-exposure prophylactics called PrEP, and we do have something that would be kind of akin to an after morning pill, if you will, which is post-exposure prophylaxis, where they have medicines that can prevent you from getting HIV, or if you've been exposed, you can take this medicine. They also have an injection that you can take for HIV prevention. So there are a number of individuals here in Baltimore City who, thank God, even though they are positive, they are now what's called undetectable, meaning that you cannot detect the virus in their bloodstream. And that has been a revolution of longer lifespan for folks who are positive. And I think that has been so instrumental for the health of our community. I will also say this. One of the concerning points that some of us have in terms of HIV is a rising incidence of new infections among elder populations. And when we talk about HIV, and somebody would say, well, wait, what? You trying to tell me grandma getting it in? Baby, grandma is getting it in because Viagra is available. Okay. And so we also know there's anecdotal evidence to suggest that in certain spaces and places in this town during the first of the month, there are places where seniors gather, and then there are also in those places there might be people who are performing sex work. And so there is a theory that sometimes that elders are not using prophylaxis like condoms because they feel they can't get anybody pregnant and that they're safe. But this is not 1964. This is 2024. And so unfortunately there has been an uptick in new HIV infections in elder populations. That's
And,
why,
and include seniors.
places like Chase Braxton already. Yes, seniors, yes. Um, yes. And remember now, people are living longer lives and they're living more vigorous lives. When we was growing up, 60 looks radically different today. I'm 50 years old. Most people don't even know how old I am. But 50, when I was growing up, that was a whole different ballgame than what it is now. And so people are living longer lives. They live
What
in
you mean is
spaces.
different?
The look of 50, the look of 60 is different than when we were kids. It's absolutely different.
You said
It was
50 and 60
absolutely.
was old when we were younger.
Yes, we thought that was old. We thought that was old. And now you listen to the 50, 60-year-olds of today, or Gen X. Shout out to all my Gen X people. We don't look like our parents looked at 50. We just don't.
I know my grandma. I could not imagine my grandma. My grandma was always grandma. Gray hair, moving slow. I could not imagine my grandma with no damn tattoos. That's what I can't imagine. Ever, 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 ever.
Yo, these scenes out here doing it, yo. They tatted up. Some of them is built. Remember Miss Ernestine, the bodybuilder? Yo, they getting it in.
Miss Ernestine,
They getting it in.
she's almost 80.
Yup. Her melanin ain't cracking. So, I mean, even we look at some of these celebrities. I saw Patty LaBelle when she just turned 80 the other day. Miss Auntie Patty looked great. Jasmine Guy looks great. You know, a lot of the folks
Who?
that we grew
Oh,
up watching
oh,
on it.
oh, oh, oh,
Ja-
oh. Who?
I said Jasmine Guy.
Then come on, brother Merrick. Stop, stop. You going too far. How old is Jasmine Guy?
She's got to be in the 60s at this point.
No.
Yeah, she was in her 20s. She was in her 20s during a different world, wasn't she?
I'm getting ready to look that up.
Wasn't she like in her?
Jasmine Guy is one celebrity. You be like, damn.
I ain't gonna comment on that. I'm always gonna lift that
She's,
sister up.
she's
But let's
62.
think about Denzel too.
She's
Let's think about
62.
Denzel. He looks great. Oh, she's 62.
Denzel,
I
yeah,
knew
he
she was
was
in her.
great.
I love her
Um,
spirit, man. That's where I'm
let's.
at with that.
I do commend her for sticking with it, but it's like I hadn't seen her for a while, and then it was like, whoa. Um, Tell me about our celebrities today. Do you think today's celebrities are any different than the ones we grew up with? Do you think celebrities get way too much attention? I mean, I'm watching my social media, looking at my Facebook page, something pop up about Rick Ross getting smacked, getting in a fight in Canada, or P. Diddy, and the way
I saw that.
everybody
Yeah.
saw the video, the way he stomped the girl, or no, then I see one that got TD Jakes, Jay Z, P. Diddy, and these people, all these up, and these three other guys might have been Meek Mills, and they got on these, and it's like, what in the hell is going on, Mark? I'm just trying to be a granddad and live the third quarter of my life. What in the hell? I mean, it's like, let me give you this other one, and to each their own. I have zero tattoos. To each their own. But I've just noticed when we get a multi-million dollar contract, it's always about the aesthetics. A white boy can get a multi-million dollar contract and he gonna buy his mom a house and a pickup truck. And I'm not saying that white people are better at managing money than black people, but help me out with this nouveau riche. Like if you hit the lottery today and you came up with $1 million, how far are you going to go? And what does that say about our mental health? I mean, we got
We're not in a good space. We're
tattoos
not in a
on
good
our
space.
face, and it's like, baby, you 22 years old, you got tattoos here and cross here, and it's like, baby, where are you going to work? Okay, so say you ain't got to work, you got filthy rich money. I even saw a white guy yesterday. It was so scary. He had a mohawk, tats all over here. He had a massage thing in his lip, big old, and it's like, well, Mark, does that make you question a person's mental health?
It does, but I also noticed that celebrities, particularly black celebrities, are being used as objects of mass distraction. It is a way for us to escape whatever we're trying to escape from and go into their fake world. But the problem that I have is this: is that the people that we're idolizing and worshiping, they're not always correct. They're not always right. And we don't really focus on the people that we need to uplift for our own upliftment, right? So Why is this inordinate focus on singers, rappers, and ball players? Why can't we have a focus on educators, doctors, engineers, entrepreneurs? These are the people that we should be featuring, particularly those who have created businesses for themselves that end up hiring other people. We need to pay attention to those people. But because America as a whole likes to be entertained, we as black people, we definitely love to be entertained because oftentimes entertainment is a way that we deal with our sorrows, is a way that we forget our troubles. But in this day and time, we are paying too much attention to these celebrities. I realize that myself. I admit it. I'm guilty of that too, particularly around the whole Will and Jada thing. You had people that were so caught up in that madness that they wanted to fight, yo, over some Will and Jada. I'm like, first of all, Will and Jada are laughing all the way to the bank. Y'all mad at her for what? If this is their arrangement, this is their arrangement. And I tell people this too, and this is not may not be popular. Black people have always had arrangements, whether it's Black Americans or Black Caribbean people. I had an uncle who had a legal wife on one side of Panama, and he had the uh, concubine wife on the other side of Panama. He had one on the Atlantic side and one on the Pacific side. And then my mother was telling me about different arrangements that she knew in her family. So I'm kind of like, why y'all mad? Why you're mad because you try to vicariously live through these people, and you'll never live through those people. In fact, counting somebody else's coin don't give you more coins. Count your own coins.
Tell me about generational trauma. Tell me a little more because that, and we all have it in our family. The things that we're not supposed to talk about, and with just a couple of minutes, talk about the trauma, but let's also talk about the healing. This is the New Life Recovery Show. If I think better, I do better.
I think that one thing that I love about Black people is that we are resilient. And what I'm so happy to see in this day and time that people are openly talking about the generational curses, not just in their own families, but as us as a whole. And one of the things that I think is so remarkable is that the ancestors keep showing up in different spaces and places, right? And so when someone learns to pour libation or someone learns how to honor an ancestor at a grave site, when someone goes to therapy and begins to talk about the things that they thought were normal but happen to be abnormal in terms of behavior, where we got people in our family that's coming out with the truth of who they are, who might have touched them, the secrets that they knew. Is that your real father? And uncovering those things. And they are traumatic. They are opening up wounds, not just wounds from 50 years ago, wounds from 300 years ago, wounds from 100 years ago. But also, too, I see a lot of us doing shadow work. What is holding me back? How are my shadows connected to the ancestors' shadows that I'm walking in? Because all of this stuff is encoded in our DNA. And then when we learn about these things, we can create modalities to heal. So I'm loving the Black vegan and vegetarian community. Shout out to Land of Kush for them even teaching people how to cook. You know what I'm saying? You've got violence interrupters from my brothers and sisters from Safe Streets to the hospital, violence interrupters coming in and helping people develop matrices that address their trauma and so that they can live a better life. We also have people that are delving into the history. So when I'm talking about people going to different websites to find out what their ancestral history is and how it translates to them, and the ancestors that had skill set, have they passed on that skill set to me in my DNA? Is that's why I like A, B, and C? So we are learning and growing, and I'm loving seeing young people really delve into that. I will say this too, that our European counterparts are very are very behind in that, because yes, as we do our generational healing of curses, they also have many generational curses.
Yeah,
The
we can
difference
get all
between us and them.
black people can get all the therapy in the world, but if white people don't get some corresponding therapy, it's like nothing. We've done nothing, only
That's
to get re-traumatized because you ain't take your butt to therapy.
That's where we're at right now, bro. That's where we're at right now. They got so much muck and mire to clean up on their side, but they refuse to do it. They have made a collective choice to not heal. Now you got the one-offs that are trying, but I'm gonna tell you this: them one-offs that are trying to help their people, a lot of them they get kicked to the curb. You already know. You've met white people that are trying to do that healing work within their own context, but they get slandered. Sometimes their life is in danger. Like Miss Jane Brown, the one who came up with the color code situation, and she was getting all types of death threats, Tim Wise. So there's people doing that work, but they realize this that the people don't want to look at the crimes of their ancestors. You can't heal from something that you don't know about, and then you passing that stuff on to other people. So my thing is this: this is why America's at its crossroads. We in a cold psychic civil war anyway. We've been this way for the last 150 years. So we got to decide as a nation: are we going to go through this and birth something new, where we have defeated the generational curses, or is it only going to be one part of the population while the other part of the population running around here crazy because they ain't do their spiritual work? And honestly, the universe is going to force them to. Honestly, if we, that's how I look at it, because reaping and sowing is real, cause and effect is real, and you might not be able to perceive it to get it.
Brother Merrick, any final thoughts? I'm gonna give you the screen, and I want you to plug your work and how people can follow you. I appreciate you. Did we ever give you a Black Wall Street Award?
No, I don't believe so, but I have been to a Black Wall Street
We need to
event,
give
but I
you a
have not received
reputation.
them.
I had a gentleman I've been knowing 25 years. He's like, you ain't never give me a Black Wall Street Award. And I just held my tongue because I really wanted to say something. But we need to put you in the very next rotation. I have my third book coming out, and I'm going to do something special either at Terra Cafe or Collins. But I want you to take a moment, and also I think you should have a show on this network.
I'm with it. I'm with it. We can make it happen. We can make it happen.
I'm gonna
I'm
give you
with
the
it.
screen. Do your thing.
Well, thank you, family. Thank you, Baltimore family, for embracing me and showing me love. It's your brother Merrick Moses. I want to say shout out to the Church of the Holy Nativity, Park Heights, my congregation. I'm senior warden there, and I want to give a shout out to all the people I love in Baltimore City, particularly my LGBTQ community and my allies, because y'all are wonderful people. And I'm gonna tell you, Baltimore. Ain't nobody can take that from you, man. I love Baltimore. Let's go Ravens. Peace.
All right. If I think better, I do better. Mark, I love you. I thank you for being my friend all
I
these
love you
years.
too,
You never
man.
switched up on me. You already know. Up to
I
date, damn
appreciate you,
right.
brother.
Yes, do your day and everything will follow. Nothing to it but to do it. I got to do it regardless of how I feel. I am somebody. I am my brother and sister's keeper. Good afternoon, world.
Amen.
Thank
Peace.